Yo, what is going on, guys? As we all know now, the Buffalo Sabres won the draft lottery and is more than favored to take Rasmus Dahlin with the first overall pick. So what we're going to do today, what every team likes to think about when they get that first overall pick, and that is, can we become a playoff team right after drafting that number one overall pick? That number one overall pick being Rasmus Dahlin. A lot of the things we're going to do in today's video is going to be a lot of comparison stuff because, I mean, let's be honest, the guy's never been in the NHL before. We can't really be like, oh, he just came from this team to this team, he's going to make him perfect. I mean, there's always going to be a transition. Doesn't matter how good the player is, there's always going to be that NHL transition. So what we're going to do is, we're going to do some comparing with Rasmus Dahlin. We're going to do some comparing with the Buffalo Sabres, potential with Dahlin. Kind of look at how other teams have done it as well. Kind of interested to see what you guys think of this kind of video. Kind of interested to see what you guys think about the situation. Are you guys saying the Buffalo Sabres are a playoff team next season? That's the topic of this video. Love to hear what you guys have to say. But let's start with comparing Dahlin, right? So, what we've heard, right? Karlsson, Hedman. That's what we're hearing comparisons of. I mean, mainly because, Swedish players, in their pre-draft careers, Dahlin outproduced offensively-wise Erik Karlsson and Victor Hedman both in the SEL and the Super Elite Leagues, etc., right? What's the relevance of that? Well, if we go ahead and look at, Erik Karlsson, we look at Victor Hedman. Hedman didn't eclipse 30 points in a season until his 5th season in the league. 30 points. It took 5 seasons for him to do it. And that was with Stamkos dropping 95 points the first season he came out there, man. That must have been nice. Draft Stamkos, get Hedman back-to-back seasons. Hedman's first season, the Lightning finished with 80 points, 3rd in the Southeastern, 3rd worst defense in the league statistically speaking. Do you know where they were the season before? 3rd worst defense in the league. Essentially, you can be like, their defense didn't change. They got a stud like Victor Hedman. Their defense remained 3rd worst in the league. That season, though, they finished with 66 points, which is 4 points more than his Sabres had this past season, by the way. So, no Hedman, 66 points. Draft Hedman, 80 points. 14-point differential. Is Hedman the reason? I mean, I'm sure there's other outliers out there as well. It must be noted, though, these guys played these games with Mike Smith in net. Their quote-unquote starter. We'll call it quote-unquote starter because I think he split time, and I think they really regret him ever splitting any time. Sorry, Mike Smith fans. But as bad as you can say Mike Smith is, their other 2 goalies combined for a disgusting 3.5 goals against average combined throughout the season. So yeah, they may have had some goaltender issues. Doesn't matter how good that defense was by the looks of it. Then by quick glance, you look, they have St. Louis, they have Stamkos just wrecking the league. And well, that was it. Those 2 contributed for pretty much half their team goals. Long story short, 12th out of 15 in the Eastern Conference that season. Why do we bring all that up? Because we said, like we said, we've heard a lot of comparisons of Erik Karlsson, a lot of comparisons to Victor Hedman. Well, that is what the Tampa Bay Lightning did after they drafted Victor Hedman the season after. Why do we bring that up? Like we said, we're going to see the impact Dahlin can make. I know we can argue he can be better than both of these guys. We're here in franchise defensemen. But we also got to put in perspective, like, how much better is he going to be than these guys? How much better are you going to be than Erik Karlsson? I mean, the guy's a point-per-game machine as it is. And to go out there and look and say, well, Hedman couldn't help him make the playoffs. How about Erik Karlsson? Erik Karlsson's first season in the league, get this, 26 points. Second season, 45 points. And then he became the point-per-game machine we know and love him as today. So what's that tell you? Again, it took him 2 seasons, or 3 seasons actually. His 3rd season is when he really started tearing it up offensively. And we already know the big story behind Erik Karlsson when it comes to defense. He doesn't play a whole lot of it. He's grown into being a lot better defenseman over the past years, though. Remember, when he, like we said, when he first came in the league, it's pretty hard to argue that he was not anything more than a 4th forward on the team. Now, we hear a lot of great things about Dahlin with his defensive abilities, though, but again, we don't know this until he comes to the league and actually proves himself. I get that he does play in, a semi-older league that's actually a respected league over there in Sweden as well. So here we go. History of the Senators, right? We just brought up Erik Karlsson. I think we don't have to talk about the history of the Senators. I mean, they still got Karlsson, and they still got a lot of problems. If that tells you that one defenseman's not going to make your team great. But the year prior to Karlsson's draft, they finished with 83 points, which was a pretty low finish in the division, but a mediocre season. It wasn't like a terrible, tank job type season. It was a mediocre one. They didn't use, they didn't get Erik Karlsson with their first overall pick or anything like that. Like I said, I wouldn't go out there and call it a terrible one like, the Sabres had, the Lightning had the prior to the draft, and their stud D-men. But the next season, after getting Erik Karlsson, playoffs, 94 points finish. 11 points on the plus minus there. You're going to go from 83 points to 94 if we're really going to count something like that. Made the playoffs after getting Erik Karlsson, though. Fun fact here. The year after Karlsson was drafted, the Sens defense statistically actually got worse. Only 1 more goal allowed worse. But again, 5 spots lower in the rankings as far as defense was concerned that season. Albeit, we will bring it up, though. Let's be frank here. They did it with a slightly below average Brian Elliott in net. And like I said, we really can't forget with Erik Karlsson. He wasn't this defensive mastermind when he came up. He was an offensive guy. The Sabres need defense. A lot of teams need defense. It's hard to outscore 3 goals against average by your goalie consistently. That's all I'm going to say. So let's go out there and compare our most recent first overall pick drafted D-man, Aaron Ekblad. Now, I'm not going to go out there and throw stats at you, compare them as, you know, individuals, because we already know these two guys are completely different types of styles of players. They're not the same. They're completely different guys. We're just doing this type of comparison here for the pure impact of what a first overall pick drafted D-man can have on a team in the following season. So we're just going to compare seasons of the teams, not so much the players. The Panthers were coming off 2 dreadful seasons prior to getting Ekblad. And when I say dreadful, I'm talking their best player had 38 points one season. And no, that was not the year of the lockout. The year we seen Ekblad come in, there was a bit of an outlier as well. It was the season prior. The Panthers went out there and traded for Luongo. And again, we look at the situation here. The team didn't have a goalie submit a goals against average. Get this. A goals against average below 3 that season. It was that bad. Until Luongo came around that season, not a single goalie below 3. It was another rough goaltending season. But we've seen Luongo go out there, drop a 2.35 goals against, 920 save at 35 years old like it was nothing when Aaron Ekblad come jumping in. That year, though, the Panthers went out there, finished with 91 points, 6th in the Atlantic. Not a terrible season. Actually, pretty respectable when we consider 91 points. It's actually not a bad season. So they were pretty competitive when they brought on a defensive-minded Aaron Ekblad that season. So one last comparison. Drew Doughty. Just to bring up some of his numbers his first season, he was minus 17, 24 minutes time on attack. He was a first-line type of defenseman out there. And they finished with 79 points. And I like the Drew Doughty comparison. Again, we're not comparing players. We're comparing setups. They had a young Wayne Simmons, they had a young Jack Johnson, a young Kopitar, young Johnny Quick. Actually, now that we're going to bring it up, we're going to bring up that young Johnny Quick because that's going to make a difference here when we're talking about goalies in Buffalo here in a little bit as well. And again, I'll reiterate for you because I know people will say it's a terrible comparison, but we're bringing setups up again. Setups in general, not about the exact players, not about comparing player to player or anything like that. But the Kings had high hopes for these types of guys. You know what I'm saying? Like, they was like, oh, young Jack Johnson, young Wayne Simmons, young Kopitar. Like, they had high hopes with these guys. Well, sorry, Jack Johnson. I don't know if I'm going to call you a high hope or not, but I can say that because you're a Blue Jacket. But I bring stuff like that up. Why? Because what do the Sabres have high hopes for right now? Young studs like Jack Eichel, Sam Reinhart, Rasmus Dahlin. We see a lot of similar players in that mix-up right there. What happened that season for the Kings, though? Johnny Quick posted a 908 save percentage is what happened, and that was not good. But the year after that, he improved in his second full season, and the rest has been absolute history for the Kings on how well they've played over the past decade. I mean, we're noticing a lot of things here. We're seeing these stud D-men. How great are they doing without a good goaltender, though, right? So let's go ahead and talk about the Buffalo Sabres. We've done enough comparing. You may have turned the video off. Maybe you was enticed by the comparing. I don't know. But let's talk about the Buffalo Sabres. Ryan O'Reilly, man, I just got to bring him up real quick. A 60% face-off percentage last year. He had a fantastic season in the dot. You got to bring that up. That is just worth noting for a team that struggled as much as they did last year. Those face-off wins are big. I mean, you know what else is worth noting, though? That $7.5 million contract they're paying him right now. Poor guys. It's all right. It might actually not be all right, though, because they got him locked up for a while. So I'll do something most Canadian fans will do right here and say, well, if the Sabres signed Tavares this summer, Sabres are going to be dirty. But no, let's be realistic here. We talked about the young talent the Sabres have, and they have even more coming up in Middlestat. With that, we're talking about the Sabres possibly having 2 potentially good lines in Jack Eichel, Patrick Maroon, Sam Reinhart, and then possibly O'Reilly, and like I said, possibly Middlestat, and then possibly Kyle Okposo on that second line. We're obviously going to be taking a huge upgrade here in defense if we pair the 2 Rasmuses together here on their first line, or maybe they try to put Dahlin with someone else. I mean, we see it quite often where we really see a team, even if they take a defenseman high in the draft, they'll kind of throw him on a second, third line when he first comes into the league, let him get his feet under him, let him earn his way in there, you know, prove himself. Even if it's only for a month or two, and then, you know, they'll stick him up there in the first line. We may see something like that with Dahlin. We never know. They might just be like, here's your first line minutes, bud. Have fun. This is why I'm not GM, though. A great reason why I'm not a GM of a hockey team, because I don't know what they're going to do. We talked about Carlson. We talked about Hedman. Arguably the most prolific offensive producing D-men in the league, and neither of them lit the league up their first year. So don't be surprised if Dahlin only drops 35 points next season. At the same time, we've heard people call this guy better than both of them. So you never know. But here's my big concern, the goalies. Why did we bring up all those goalie stats earlier? Because they were important to whether the Sabres make the playoffs or not this season. Honestly, I think Dahlin is obviously a huge boost to this team and the team's future. But the Sabres making the playoffs this season is going to depend completely on their goaltending. I said it. The goaltending is going to be the reason the Sabres miss or make the playoffs this season. Like I said, Dahlin's going to help. The goaltending is going to be the reason, though, if they're going to contend. Lehner straight pooed the bed last season. Let's be real here. There's no other way to put it. The year before, he was decent, and they finished with 80 points. Not a coincidence right there. He does terrible, they do terrible. He does mediocrely decent, they did mediocrely decent. This team's got the talent, boys. Just a quick comparison as well. We think about Cam Talbot. Edmonton finished with over 100 points 2 seasons ago. Talbot had a great season. Talbot doesn't do good this season. Doesn't matter how many points Connor McDavid put up. The Edmonton Oilers didn't make the playoffs, and they struggled this season. But now it looks like Lehner has the chance to walk, and we could see young stud Linus Ullmark possibly getting the starting job. The big question being, is he NHL ready? How NHL ready is he? He's been up and down between the AHL and NHL a few times here the past couple of seasons. I think he's played 20, 30 some games. He's done fairly well in his time up here. 24 is a good age. It's not an age where I say, if he comes up here, he's pretty young. He's got some learning to do. 21, 22 type of guy. I think 24 is not a bad age at all for goalie, where I feel like he's got a ceiling. At the same time, you can understand he's going to have that floor down there as well, where he could struggle. But he's definitely got a high ceiling at the age of 24. So I'm going to be the optimistic one here, just like every Sabres fan probably is. And I'm going to hope for the best and say Ullmark has a good season. And I'm going to say with that good season, a healthy Jack Eichel all season, and improvements from all their younger players as we expect, I'm going to go against the grain here. And I'm going to say this Buffalo Sabres team is a playoff contender. Contender, I said, next season. The Atlantic is absolutely loaded with talent, though. That's why I said contender. It's going to be tough to imagine them getting into a fist fight with the Leafs, the Bruins, the Lightning. Those are some tough teams they're going to have to pass. I see them fighting for more of a wild card spot than knocking one of those 3 teams out of a divisional spot. So I'm going to say they will contend, and they're going to play meaningful hockey in Buffalo this season come March. I will say this, though. If the Sabres have to end up re-signing Lehner and Johnson both, and they go out there and both of them play between the pipes this season, we don't see Ullmark really at all. I don't think it matters how good Dahlin plays. That goaltending will hold them back, no questions asked. Unless Lehner goes out there and does something impressive this season. I mean, he just struggled in a contract year. The contract year is when you want to impress, and he struggled mightily. I don't think there's much going on after that. I think they'd struggle. I think that definitely holds them back. This is going to sound really strange considering this entire topic surrounding Dahlin, the Sabres, the draft, everything else is all about how great Dahlin's going to be. But I think this team is going to go as far as Ullmark takes them next season. Ullmark, not Dahlin, Ullmark. Dahlin's going to make a big impact. Ullmark's going to be the reason they struggle or they're successful, though. The goaltending's the problem in Buffalo. You know what part of that problem is, though? The defense that has been struggling in Buffalo. But at the same time, I've been watching Blue Jackets hockey for a pretty long time. The defense in Blue Columbus, they love breaking down. Bob bails them out. It takes good goaltending. Your defense is going to make mistakes. They're going to obviously make a lot of mistakes with Dahlin being a rookie. He's going to have problems, all right? Let's be real. The guy's 19. He's going to make mistakes. This is a big stage. I don't care what he did in his previous, couple seasons as a younger kid. He's a rookie. He's going to make mistakes. It happens. You're going to need a stout goalie back there that can make some big saves when these mistakes happen. Lehner's not doing it. Chad Johnson's not doing it. But if Ullmark can do it, I think the Buffalo Sabres have a strong chance to go out there, maybe not make the playoffs, maybe drop 90 points. 90 points out of a Buffalo Sabres team. That would be impressive. 90, 85, 88, 90. Give Buffalo fans a reason to want to see some hockey come March. Put up a fight for a playoff spot. It's going to be exciting in Buffalo. These guys are young. These guys got the talent. Let's see if they can piece it together and hopefully make a push for the playoffs this season. I said it. They're going to contend. That's my opinion. I'd like to hear your guys' as well. As always, though, guys, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.